So welcome everybody to the do's and don'ts for building innovative communities. Thank you everybody for joining us for this session with Maya Friedman on the do's and don'ts for building innovative communities. Maya, we're going to give everybody just a few more seconds to join us and kind of rush into the room as I introduce you. So for those of you who don't know Maya, actually Maya is a source of inspiration in everything that has to do with community building, isn't it? Maya, you've been doing this for quite a while, isn't that right?
Yes, I'm embarrassed.
Oh, don't be. We're here to embarrass all our speakers. and we love them. But I met Maya it must have been a couple of years back when we hosted her previous community, the Edtech, here at Startup Nation Central. They had a most fantastic event with great branding and everything was great, and all these people from the education system who came here and were convened in this very unique way of how we do it with communities. And they were all taken aback by this experience that they went through, which was amazing. I remember that event of actually meeting you that day, and that was great fun. So that was one of your communities, the Edtech community. And then now, just in March this year, you started the Aging.IL community. In the middle of COVID-19, I get a call from you. I think it was a WhatsApp message saying, "Hi, Michal, we're establishing the Aging.IL community, a community all about innovation for aging, which whoever doesn't know it is going to touch every single one of us. We're not going to stay young forever. You have to remember that."
Yep.
So this is a community for all of us. And it was started in March, right in the middle of COVID. And I think from that point until now, I've only seen this grow and grow exponentially in a way that is incredible for a community. I think the timing was amazing, because the need suddenly for and the awareness of aging and what's happening in that arena was just created this huge buzz around it. So that's been fantastic to watch this grow and evolve over time, and I'm really happy that you're going to share this as a case study for today. So I'm going to stop blabbering. I wanted to share with everybody my excitement around what you do both in Aging.IL and what you did with Edtech. And please share with us a little bit of your knowledge and know-how on the do's and don'ts in the innovative communities. I'm going to be backstage, but I'll probably be popping back and coming back with all these different questions that I have for you as well. So Maya, the stage is yours.
This is perfect. Michal, thank you so much for the opportunity. And we did share some really good times. I think we've all been through so much in the past 9 or 10 or 11 months. So it's really, really good to be here just with friends and good people. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited to begin. So let's begin. I think Michal said a lot of things, very nice things about me that made me a bit embarrassed, but that's okay. We love being embarrassed. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so I can see that you can see my screen, right? Everything is okay? Thumbs up? Thumbs up. All right, let's begin. Today we will be talking about the do and the don'ts of creating innovative communities. Now, I know we've been talking much about communities in the past few days, so I will shortly explain what I mean when I say creating innovative communities. So we'll get there in just a moment. Maya Friedman, Aging.IL, as Michal told, I actually wanted to begin with something very personal because I feel that all these Zoom meetings and everything going on makes me want to give you something for myself. So this is me dancing. I love to dance African dance, and I play the drums, African drums. And it has nothing to do with work whatsoever. But the only thing is that drumming and dancing makes me feel extremely powerful. And honest to God, I wake up every morning and I say, okay, how am I going to be an African drummer today? And so it has nothing to do with my work, but I guess maybe it does. Anyway, this is me. And in a minute, I'd love to hear more about you guys. And a check-in. So I like to start all of the sessions we have in Aging.IL and just anywhere in a short check-in. Check-in means maybe 1 or 2 words just about you. It could be something you come with, some kind of feeling, some kind of expectation for what you would like us to be doing together in the next hour. So this is It will be a lot of me sharing a best practice, but on the other hand, it will be a bit more hands-on. So feel free, if you have any questions or anything. So I think the way we're going to do this in a very creative and technological way will be, please write a word about yourself and 1 or 2 words about a feeling, what you came with, in the chat on your right, and all of us can look at it right now. I bring with myself excitement. Let's see people writing some things here. Okay, so I see a few people writing, I think. Right, Michal, am I mistaken? Okay, so if you're writing something and I can't see it, I apologize. And if you're writing something and are answering one another, then perfect, because that's the goal. This is the aim of this part. So we'll take another minute or so just to write some things, if you want to share with us. Okay, Bliss, I see Michal, perfect. Bliss is a really, really good one. Thank you. So that's me, and this is a little about you. So as I said before, this is a very open, I don't know if to call it conversation, but I do have a few pointers I would like you to receive, and the rest is yours for questions or anything. So, Ashoka. Michal mentioned Ashoka. Aging.IL belongs to Ashoka, a partnership. Ashoka is one of the partners. I'll just say a word about that, and then you'll kind of understand the broad context of what we mean when we say innovative communities. So Ashoka is a global NGO which actually promotes the work of social entrepreneurs all over the world. It was established in 1981. It has more than 3,500 fellows nowadays, from 92 different countries. Fellow means a social entrepreneur that has been elected because Ashoka believes it has the element to create change, to create systematic change on a national or even on a global level. So this is really one of the key factors I will be talking about today, which means systematic change for social well-being. So that's a little bit about Ashoka, and of course I'll also talk about the other partners. But before we begin, I'd like to say a little bit about what I mean when I say hands-on, because I believe that building and managing communities is more hands-on than anything else. And for this, I want to share with you the Makluba story. The Makluba story is a story that goes way back 3 years ago when I was at the beginning in Edtech, in Learn.IL community, and I wanted to make a Makluba, which is an Israeli popular food. I wanted to make it for my boyfriend's parents because they were coming over to visit us for the first time. So I had a recipe, and I made the Makluba, and then what happened? This is what happened. And it was a failure, and this true story, real pictures, it was a complete failure. And I know it sounds just like a little story, but the insight that I took from this story was, how come I failed? I had a recipe and it was all supposed to go right, but it didn't. And that's when I understood that the only way to succeed in something is to try. It wasn't enough that it had a recipe. So community is kind of the same way. You can only learn by building one, making your mistakes and trying and eventually succeeding. And so this is me succeeding making my Makluba. It took me maybe 2 or 3 times. I make a wicked Makluba today, just so you know, and we're still together, so apparently it wasn't all that bad. So that's what I mean when I say community. So let's talk about now. What are we going to do? First thing, we're going to talk about what are innovative communities. Then I will state the 3 do's of succeeding, 3 success factors I have found to be very effective building communities. The third one will be the 3 don'ts, glorious mistakes that I made managing communities, and people who succeed know that people who succeed also love mistakes. So that's what we're going to be doing today. A little bit about just establishing innovative communities. As Michal said, I managed Learn.IL, which was an Israeli Edtech community. So I worked with startups, established and grew this community of startups in the Edtech field. And we also had a community of early adopters, of educators who were trying out technologies. And we managed a few wonderful programs there. You see the pictures here. We had lots of events. We have 107 alumni school principals going through our programs, actually trying hands-on technology. And you'll see that the word hands-on goes a long way. I like to use it a lot. Again, success factors. So I'm only saying this because this is one of the examples I will be bringing during our session tonight. And the other community I'll talk about more is Aging.IL community, which I run now, as Michal said. We launched in March 2020. COVID really, by chance, by the way, completely by chance. Today we have over 1,000 community members. We had 23 events that were all online because of what's going on. And we have 14 innovative teams. And I will explain what innovative teams means in just a second. Our work principles: 1, teamwork. I'll talk about teams as we go along. Connecting and networking, of course, like any community, this is the main and this is the core of what we do. Influencing policymakers. This is about the systematic change I'd like to talk about in a minute. And 4 is learning and development. We believe, I also believe in my own personal life, that people should always be learning and there should always be an extra thing for them that will be interesting enough. Aging.IL has 4 founding partners. Ashoka, as we said, Kaveret, which is Israeli social hub for social entrepreneurs. Joint Israel Eshel, whoever knows it, the Joint is a very, very big NGO, and Eshel is one of its organizations working with the aging ecosystem. And the national security funds, Bituach Leumi, Karanot Bituach Leumi, which support elders and everybody else in Israel. And why is this so important? Because the partners are actually also governmental, like the funds, and also NGOs, also Ashoka, Hakaveret, and Joint. And this is extremely important because there are different diverse stakeholders that decided all to come together in order to solve the elders' problems. And this is a huge thing. It may sound, 9 months into our program, it sounds like it already makes sense. But you have to understand, this took maybe 3 years of behind-the-scenes work to get this thing running. So this is a very, 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 very big step, Aging.IL. So what we do in Aging.IL, if I haven't said it, yes, so far as we promote and accelerate innovative solutions for the elders in Israel. Meaning we want to make the elders' lives easier, better, health-wise, and of course, other meanings. Why? As Michal said, we will all grow old someday. And if we don't grow old someday, we're taking care of older people. And when we're old, people will take care of us. So it's kind of a cycle that we cannot run from, but also in a positive way, not only in the bad way we're used to talking about. And of course, this is a very broad issue. It's not only Israel. This is Asia. This is the US. I'll say the Western, not even Western, countries, maybe except for Africa. I know countries are dealing with demography, and it's a problem. It's not a problem because aging is a problem. It's a problem because systems need to adjust in order to give the right solutions and the right, the right support to people. So this is what Aging.IL means to do. Now, I don't really want to go into definitions, but I think we should just say something to talk on the same grounds. So community, there are a lot of definitions for community, as you all know probably better than me. Group of people that share particular characteristics or goals in the same geographic area or not, and in the past year, basically not in the same geographical area. We may create a unique identity and sense of belonging. I wrote may and may not, of course. One of our goals is to create this unique identity, but I wouldn't take it for granted. Now, you have to ask yourselves, what is innovation, right? And there's also a lot of definitions for innovation. When I say innovation, I mean finding new solutions for today's problems or tomorrow's problems. And this is really important because if I take Aging.IL for an example, today's problems would be healthcare system, right? Or not having old people be able to do rehabilitation digital from far away is one of the problems of today. But what are the problems tomorrow? Good question, right? What happens when we have 3 million and 4 million elders in the country? So we still have a bit of time until that happens. Not so much time, but a bit of time. But these are things we have to think about today in order to solve them tomorrow. So this is innovation. Now, technology has great advantages, but, and this is a very big but, it is not necessary. So innovation and technology do not have to go together. I know this might sound weird, something I usually say when I meet school principals and school teachers, because usually technology seems like, like a monster. And I say, it's okay. We don't have to use technology. Technology has the best advantages. Most of the groundbreaking innovation solutions I know are technology. I believe in technology. But I do feel that we have to separate them just for our discussion. So that's about innovation, that's about technology. And what is an innovative community? So accelerating and creating new innovative solutions for urging social problems by promoting cooperation and establishing trust between diverse stakeholders. So we're not talking about one entrepreneur with an amazing technology. We're not even talking about one organization. We are talking about new solutions that people create together. And this is extremely important because this is what we talk when we say innovative community. Or else I would be saying innovative startup or innovative whatever. No, I mean innovative community. It cannot be done alone. And I think if take anything from this hour together, this is the core of any innovative community, whether it's Edtech startups, whether it's aging population, or who knows, there are a lot of communities going on now in Israel. It cannot be done alone, and this is just the main objective, because if we didn't believe that, we wouldn't even be here. We cannot do it alone. Creating systematic change, you need to have all stakeholders into it. Okay, so the goal is changing systems, not only creating innovation solutions, but having the national funds adopting solutions and having the hospitals and having the doctor all adopt different solutions and slowly but surely creating a whole different and new system that can treat the elders like they should be and make sure we can sustain the way we're living, even if we have 3 million elder people in Israel and not a little more than 1 million. So this is the goal of an innovation community. And as I said, Aging.IL is just an example for our discussion today. It's just an example. So I'll talk a little bit about the aging ecosystem. I just want to check if you have any questions. Okay, yeah, so I'm looking at the chat. Perfect. So aging ecosystem. So if we're talking about an innovative community, who is the aging ecosystem? Meaning, who are the people that deal with the elders in Israel today? So here I jot down a list. There are more people, not only who you see today. You have all kinds of people here as you see. Now my question is to you, and this is of course, I guess just an offer for practice. I don't think we'll do it together here, but I think just for a minute before I show you how I look at the ecosystem, I would like to ask you how you would look at this ecosystem if you had to draw it. Where would you put all these people connecting one another or not connecting at all? So if any one of you wants to take just a piece of paper and jot down and just draw, really just draw what you see, perfect. I strongly advise you to, or else it's just me blabbering. And I'll continue in 1 more minute. I'll just see if we have any more questions. Okay. By the way, if you are drawing this now, you can feel free to put it in the chat or send it to me later. Honestly, I am very, very intrigued. I've done this with school principals, and I've done this with startups and with all kinds of peoples, and you wouldn't believe how many different drawings I received of the same ecosystem. And by the way, some people are missing here, so look at it and also write in the chat. Who do you think is missing? Remember, all the people who have to do with the elders in Israel, who is missing? Any ideas? Thank you, Talia. The elderlies themselves. You got it. You're extremely right. How can you talk about the ecosystem of the elders without the elders themselves, right? I know it's kind of obvious, but it's not obvious at all. That's why I didn't write it down. Good for you, Talia. It's not obvious at all. Same thing. How can we develop innovative technologies for Edtech, right, for education, without discussing it with school principals and teachers? Obvious, right? No, it's not obvious at all. This is what we did in Learn.IL. We brought everyone together into the same room, talk to each other, and understand the real needs in the field. And this is not obvious at all. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's continue to the ecosystem. So this is how we look at the ecosystem. As you see, all the different players in the field. And again, this is aging, and this is an example. So we like to divide it to supply and demand, right? Supply being all the innovative solutions available, and demand being all the people who are seeking innovative solutions. So it can be, demand could be my doctor, right? Could be the healthcare system. It could be the social sector that work with, right? That work with the elders. It could be me looking something for my grandmother. And the supply would be the startups and the social entrepreneurs, right? And all things that are being developed and programs and technologies and and all these kinds of things. So supply and demand, I like using supply and demand because it makes a lot of sense. And again, we're looking at a very broad perspective of a market. And that's very, very important because this is why I call it an innovative community, because not all communities have a broad perspective of markets. So this is the way we look at the whole market. And of course, this is the ecosystem. So we knowledge management, and we do co-learning and co-creation together. And we manage innovation processes like our innovation teams I'll tell you about. And this is the way it looks. And of course, I'm open to hear other thoughts about the way you would draw it. Innovative solutions. We have to keep in mind that this is the whole story behind it. Meaning if we did not have innovation solutions, then we had no point in even trying to change the system, right? So this is really important. It's also very optimistic, I guess an optimistic approach, but also on ground in the aging field, we see lots of breakthroughs. Most of them are technological, but not only technological breakthroughs, also others, especially with COVID going on. So this is the story of an innovative community. Now, no questions. Okay. So 3 do's of success factors. Now, this is very practical, very, very, very hands-on. What I found worked for building and establishing communities. One is shared leadership. The way we do things at Aging.IL, everything is decentralized. Everything is shared. I'm not the specialist. The ones running Aging.IL are not the specialists. Who are the specialists? Community members, because they work in the field. They're the doctors, they're the elders themselves, etc. So for example, in another 3 weeks, we have an Aging.IL collaborative roadmap session. We invited the community to help us write our work plan for 2021. We didn't write it on our own. We said, we don't want to write it on our own. Tell us what we should be doing. So this is going to happen on the 7th of December. And we have impact one-on-one meetings with specialists from the community. So we don't bring people from outside, we bring community members themselves to tell their best practices. So this is, for example, Roy Tal, he's an entrepreneur. He came to talk to about 12 people. And even the challenge mapping, we did together with the community. We invited them to map the challenges together, and they mapped 5 different challenges on their own. I'll show you it in a little bit. It's not something I did. I'll even tell you more than that. Some specialists told us that's all, there are other challenges. And we said, no, this is the community, this is what they want to do. So this is what we're going to do. And this is extremely important because this gives people a sense of, I would say, ownership, not even responsibility, but ownership. So that's the story. And as you see here on the right, we had an event last week. We had an event on last Tuesday. We had 470 people register. And it was amazing because it was community people helping other community members with their problems. Okay, so shared leadership. 14 innovative teams. I told you about innovation teams. The community came and said, we want practical. We're sick and tired of having roundtables and people talking to us. And we understood, we opened our ears and we said, okay, perfect. So let's create this project of innovation teams. Each team has different stakeholders, so it's not like an accelerator or something where you have one entrepreneur. Each team has different stakeholders working together on a new initiative. Some of them can be technologies. Most of them are not technologies, by the way. And so we have today 14 innovative teams. And these teams deal with 5 different challenges of aging. And these are challenges that the community members mapped in a few of our meetings that we had. So one of the challenges is loneliness, which is, of course, not surprising. Ageism, gilanut, meaning, I forgot the word in English, sorry, meaning gizanut al reka shel gil, okay, meaning kind of racism, but based on age. Rehabilitation, right, shikum, facilitating services, הנגשת שירותים, and digital orientation. How can we teach the elders to use the computer and to use the cell phone for all the really cool things they can do? So these are innovative teams. And what I wrote here, as you see, are different stakeholders because every team has a team manager. And again, these are all people from the community. They are not specialists or doctors in the field or something like that. They're all volunteers. Everybody is volunteer. Social entrepreneurs are the one leading most of the teams in loneliness. In ageism, most of them are academy. And rehabilitation, most of them are startups leading these different teams, and government in the facilitating services, which makes sense because we need the government in order to create this kind of change. And NGOs are leading the digital orientation. And it's super interesting to see how these sectors find themselves in different kinds of challenges. And I'll just give you an example from one of these teams so you'll understand a bit more what I'm talking about. One of our teams in facilitating services is trying to map the elders in the city of Hod HaSharon that are not mapped yet, meaning social services don't know them yet. Nobody knows who they are. So they said, we want to map these people, the people that we forgot behind, right? And they want to do it using technology. And so that's why they have a startup in their team. And they want to do it with a municipality because they said the municipality is one of the most meaningful places where change happens, and they're completely right. And so they're bringing Hod HaSharon into the picture. And the one leading this team is actually a CEO of an NGO in the field, Linda Mossack, and she is amazing, by the way. So this is an example for one of our teams. So we have 14 of these teams with different players, all working together with new initiatives. Another example I can give you is from ageism. One member said, she's a CEO also of an NGO called Vehadarta. You may know her, Rivi Beller. She's also amazing. She said, we want to create a national campaign to fight ageism. We can't do it on our own. So created a team, and we have people from the academy, and we have people who understand marketing, of course, and they want to create a national campaign. They want to be the second Me Too. That's the way they label themselves for the elders. And it's amazing. And all these people, again, volunteer, but something we have to understand, of course, is about what gives value to people. So they're not, I mean, they're doing it in volunteer work, but they're doing it because it promotes their own interests and their own, you know, the things that they're trying to build in their work anyway. So Rivi, for example, is in her NGO. This is what she does all day long. So for her, it's just more, you know, more work power. It's more, it's a win-win for her, and it's a win-win for us. And I think community is all about the win-win. So this is just, I guess, another example what I mean when I say shared leadership, because they run the teams. I don't run the teams. Of course, we help and we facilitate, and I do all these things, but they manage it. And this is extremely important to understand. It took me a long time to really understand how this works. But I can tell you that when it works, it's amazing. And I'll get to that even more in depth. But I want to continue. So do number 2, build your infrastructure. And I guess because what I said before, this is not surprising to you either. Your people are your infrastructure, right? So what does an infrastructure mean? What enables your work? What are your tools? Tools in a good way, not, you know, tools in a good way. My people, 1,000 people in the community, they're the infrastructure because they know what's going on. They know what needs to be done. They know who's who in the field. They are everything. So it's really a perspective that gives lots of power to the people in the community and not to the community manager. Manage resources. Yes, this is an extremely, extremely important thing. I'm just checking the chat again. I'm probably a little paranoid. Okay, perfect. 3, manage resources that are not your own. Now, what does this mean, right? What do you mean resources that are not your own? It's hard enough to manage resources that are mine. What do I mean when I say resources that are not my own? This is what I mean. I told you about the different challenges. When we decided to launch this innovation process, we asked ourselves, how can we get more people involved? So we have 14 teams. That's amazing. We want more people from 1,000 people being involved. So how can we make this happen? And then we decided that each challenge will have a challenge leader. So it's not only the team managers, it's a challenge leader that works with the team managers, helping them out, guiding them with anything they need. And so we have 5 leaders like this, as you see. So Challenge of Loneliness would be NGO named Matav. You may know them. They're a very, very big player in the field, stakeholder in the field. Ageism would be the one I told you about, Rivi Beller. She's also leading the whole challenge on her own. And rehabilitation would be Moran Ran, which is the CEO of a startup called Advisor. And she's running the whole thing. Facilitating services, also from the government. And digital orientation is mainly from an NGO from Eshet. So all these people are helping their teams. They are specialists. We do consider them being specialists. You know, they've been around for a long time. They know everything about the field. And they're helping these teams. Again, it's good for their agenda. They get to know different players. They also learn, learn themselves. And we have meetings only with these people, which is also a success for its own, because you can see the different sectors. You can see how diverse these sectors are. And I'll tell you, this is something that I could see it also in education, but here it's even, this barrier is even larger. People don't talk to people. You could have 3 different solutions in the field and you wouldn't even know they exist. So once we have everybody talking together on the same process, you can find out things you wouldn't find. And we also want to map the community. This is one of our goals for 2021, if the community approves, of course. So this is a little bit about our 5 challenge leaders. And I want to say a little bit more about resources. So all our leaders, our innovative teams, they are all volunteers doing it on their own time. We also have mentors that are helping out these teams. And we also have a few other interns and all kinds of people helping us on a volunteer basis. We actually counted the hours and the time committed, and we got to 327, approximately, 1,000 Israeli shekels worth of time. Now that's a really, really big number. Really, really big number. And I say this not in the kind of cynical, greedy way of money, not at all. I say this just so we can open our minds to be creative, thinking about what resources do I have that I can use that don't cost money, but benefit the field and benefit the players. Again, it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. And this is really important because most communities, I think that's the basis of community work, is using resources, managing resources that are not your own. Because once you can get people understanding the goal, 1, connecting them to the goal, 2, understanding from them what their interest is, what their motives are. 3, if you're able to make that match, not lie, I mean, it's only there if it's there, but if the match is there, making the match, that's really all you have to do in order to get a community up and about. So I don't know if it sounds easy or hard from what I'm saying. Of course, it doesn't happen in one day, but it's a whole different perspective of how to do things. So this is just about resources. So resources, right, can be time. Resources can be manpower. Resources can also be ideas, because the community has thousands of ideas that we wouldn't think about. So it's also something to keep in mind about the resources of the ideas. So the community resources are our people. What you see here is Ophir Benatan. It might not be the best picture of him, but he is one of our partners. And this is a time to say a word about our team, because I didn't really mention our team yet, and you should get to know them too. So Ophir is from Eshel, from Joint Eshel, and he's one of our team members at Aging.IL. He runs technologies in Eshel. And in order to market our last event that we had last week, we asked Ophir to film a short video calling the community to come. So we didn't want to market, we didn't want to put 2,000 shekels on Facebook and make it run. We thought that who should be calling people to come to the event to help these creative teams would be the teams themselves. And this is just another example, right? So it's not me calling them out. Maybe the elders actually would be a good idea. But Ophir, who runs a team, would be the one calling them out. So we filmed a few videos, and I'll send them in the chat later if you want to see. And they had really, really nice impact. They had extreme impact because people, they saw the thing in his eyes and they could say, oh, wow, he knows what he's talking about. He's not just trying to sell us something. He's part of it. So very, 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 very important. So our resources are our people. Community resources are really all around us, and this is a broader perspective. So I also mean the gig economy. I'm sure you've heard of this, right, of the gig economy, meaning today you can outsource almost everything. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing for everyone. Of course, it's a complex idea, but being a community manager, if you don't have a lot of resources, you can do a lot of things using, freelancers, outsourcing for certain things. And the positive thing I want to say about this outsourcing is using internships. Win-win, right? For example, in my last event, I worked with 2 interns. One of them was marketing intern that helped us with the marketing. He's the one that, if you've seen this before, he's the one that called up Ophir and said, listen, Ophir, we want to make this really, really cool, really, really cool marketing campaign. And he worked with us and he did an amazing job. So he was, at the beginning, it was a lot of, talking and teaching and doing things. But it was definitely a win-win for him, and it was a win-win for me. And great guy, really. It was a really, really great experience. So internships is also a really, really useful way to get communities running, especially when you have all this, what's the word, tiful, you know, just handwork. It's always handwork, sending the emails and managing things. So it's a really, really great way. We have reached our second practice for today. Now, if you didn't do the last one, I strongly advise you take a minute to do this one, because be creative. What resources are available to you today? So look at your own work, look at your own job. I mean it. Honestly, I did this 2.5 months ago, and it changed the way I look at things, and it changed the way I manage our last event. And our last event was a huge success. So what resources are available to you that you have not thought about today? It could be interns. It could be people in the community you haven't thought of. It could be volunteers from other places. Take a minute, write it down to yourself. You can write it down in the chat and share it with us if you'd like. But this will change the way you think of your work. By the way, while you're all writing, I will say that I have discovered how keen people are to volunteer when there's an extremely important goal such as aging, and we all know how important this goal is. People love it. People like to volunteer. If you ask, if you apply, you know, you say we're looking for certain things. I advise you to do it very short and very structured. For example, looking for a volunteer for 4 hours of something, looking for a volunteer as a mentor for a process of 2 weeks, etc. It has to be very structured. It has to be very clear. And then it goes, the mesel, what you want to say, is very, very clear. So I strongly advise you, even if you think, I don't know if people would be up to this, they're totally up for it, especially nowadays when people are, you know, moving around a lot, and people are thinking about their careers, and people are looking for jobs even. So people are more than happy to help in order to belong to something. And maybe just one more thing about the resources issue is that money is not everything. Because really, if people feel they're part of something big, they will come. It has nothing to do with money. I know it sounds weird. It has nothing to do with money. Money can only take you that far. And building innovative communities, and when you want to create structured change and systematic change, money will not do it. Money will not do it, because it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you can't penetrate the system and you can't do implementation well enough, it's not going to work. So forget about the money. Creative thinking, startup, run a community like a startup. That's the deal. Our network. Yeah, Michal, I totally agree. Definitely your network. Okay, so we talked about success. We talked about success factors that totally worked, at least in the communities that I have been running. One of them being about the resources, right? Using resources and creating resources, and the other one being shared leadership. Now let's talk about 2 don'ts, watch outs that I'd like to share with you today. So number 1 is don't be a Superman, be a super manager. And I guess I've kind of said this before. I thought I have to be Superman and do everything. And it's also character. I'm sure some of you were like that too. I have to write all the emails, and I have to make all the phone calls, and I have to do everything. And I don't. When I kind of took a step back and I started managing, first of all, recognizing that there's a reason they call it a community. These are live, it's like a solar system, you know? These are live planets, live people, live relationships going on, and all I have to do is manage them and facilitate them in a way that they will be productive in avoiding the barriers of the aging field and of creating amazing things together. That's all you have to do. So I moved from being a Superman, working at 12 o'clock at night, doing everything for everyone, to being a super manager. And things are excelling so quickly because of that. Because now it's not only Maya, or not only Ophir, or not only Amir. By the way, I have to say Amir Natan is the CEO of Ashoka Israel, and he's, of course, the manager of the team, and he's amazing. So it's not only about us. Now it's about 1,000 other people I'll say even 100 different stakeholders that are active and wake up every morning and are part of our teams, and another 1,000 people around them, like the solar system. And now it's a part of everyone's agenda. And so it's not only what Maya can do in her 60, 70, 80 hours a week, it's about what these people can do in their time. And so you multiply and multiply and multiply, and it's exponential, right? So not only COVID is exponential, but the potential of moving forward in a social agenda is just great. So number two, don't underestimate implementation. Now this is a tough one, guys, because most people overlook implementation. What do I mean? When we say innovation, it's really easy to say innovative solutions, right? I want the hospitals to be so technological. I want everything to work. But we forget that it's a process of change. Innovation is a process of change. And so this example is not from Aging.IL, it's from Learn.IL. It's from my prior job, managing community of Edtech startups, and also managing a community of early adopters, educators, school principals, and school teachers adopting technologies. So the first year of this program, we call it Chalutzei HaChadshunut, the innovators. We call it the pioneer innovators, which is really cool. We called out school principals. We told them we're looking for leaders, school principals who want to implement and try out innovation. And they came on board. So we had 2 years of the program. We began the first year with 20 principals from Tel-Aviv, from the Tel-Aviv district of the Ministry of Education. Amazing people. And the first year we said, okay, so we'll introduce them to technologies. They can try out these technologies in our 3-hour meeting we had every week. And fair enough, right? And then they went back to the school and nothing happened. And we didn't understand how come nothing's happened. I mean, no way, right? We built such a great meeting and everything. And of course, now I know to say, because I've learned, all my experience, of course nothing happened, because implementation, change doesn't happen on its own. Implementing or adopting new technologies or new solutions doesn't happen on its own. You have to have that middleman, that does the work. And so different industries have these middlemans, like the technology field, they already have these people, or IT people who will be the middleman between the new technologies and the customer at the end, and he'll make the match, and make sure everything's going right. But innovative technology doesn't have these people, at least yet, in the education field, and not in the aging field either. And that's the story. So once we understood this in the Pioneer Innovation Program, the second year, we brought to our staff somebody who would do only implementation. Her whole job was to meet these principals, sit with them, and implement. Implement is it's not sexy, right? Implementation is work plans. And sometimes it's budget. Sometimes it costs a lot of money. It's understanding if school teachers have to use technology A, what has to happen in order for them to understand it? Do they have to go through sessions of learning it, of trying it out, of trying it with the students, maybe buying new computers? So all of this big word of implementation, people tend to overlook it because it's not sexy, because it costs a lot of money, but it's actually the key element for success. So never underestimate it. Always think 12 steps back and 12 steps ahead, and don't take success for granted.
And Maya, I think implementation ties in between our innovative communities and the innovation and the technological innovation that we drive as well, which is really interesting, because that implementation phase is so important for anything, any good idea that we have or anything that we want to do. It's all about taking that idea and putting it out there, which is kind of that next step, which is don't underestimate your next step, basically, which I think is fantastic. And we have about a minute and a half before we finish. Oh, yeah. And I do want to interrupt you, and kind of, because I do have a few questions that I want to raise and point out as well from things that you said. And actually, taking from the beginning of a presentation, you're talking about changing systems. And I think that's one of the key things about creating innovative communities, is once you're there to shift really big systems and you're changing something that has been there either for a very long time or something that is very heavy duty, that is huge, and you have to be innovative. You have to be disruptive in order to move these really, really big machines, and states of mind and people's beliefs about what ageism and what aging is, and all these aspects really require using different set of tools of what you usually use. And this has just been fantastic because it ties in these two worlds, and communities being something that is bottom up. It's something that comes,
Yes.
it starts from the people that work together. And what you're describing here is exactly that, is changing that innovation, creating those changes, but you have to be creative when you do it, don't you?
Oh yes, you have to be a startup. You have to work very quickly. You're always rapidly kind of adjusting. It's kind of a community startup, to be honest. Yep.
So that was really interesting. Guys, if somebody wants to come on stage and ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll bring you on stage for the last minute of the presentation. If not, please feel free to write in the chat. And Maya, if you can hang around as well in our lounge and take questions from people that might want to ask a few things, and kind of maybe even have a one-on-one with you, and have a little bit of a discussion and questions, because I think what you've done, and I mentioned this in the beginning, with Learn.IL, it used to be Edtech, and those changes that you made in those communities and that you're implementing here with Aging.IL, they're very interesting, and I think they're a great learning curve for anybody that that wants to learn about communities and how to do it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
It was fantastic. It was very interesting. I think a lot of people wanted to digest everything that you were saying, and kind of just learning from it, which was fantastic. And really, you're welcome to hang around, and everybody as well. We have about a 10 minutes break before we go to our next session. There's 3 different tracks. Don't forget to go through the agenda and find all of them. And Maya will be hanging around here and taking questions. Feel free to ask her to join a table. You can direct message her on the platform, or just take a table at the lounge and continue the conversation there.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. Great. I see Michael or Michael wrote change agent, so I'll just address that.
Yeah.
So when I say middleman, I mean a mitavech, somebody who can kind of know the needs and know the supply and know to connect them in the best way. Change agent, we usually describe a change agent as the agent that will bring the change that's inside the system. So thinking of education, a change agent would probably be the teacher or the school principal. This is why we addressed the school principal at the beginning. We thought they would be the most meaningful agents of change. So two different things. I can elaborate if you'd like.
Great. So Michael's also just asking how you direct message. So you have 3 icons on the top right corner of your screen, and there's like 2 people with a little bubble next to them. If you click on it, you can look for Maya Friedman there, and you can just direct message her. And there's also our support to help you do it in the central stage if you need help there as well. So thank you, everybody. See you again in our next session shortly. Bye, Maya.
Bye-bye. Thank you.